Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for attending this celebration of life for Jennifer Voghell. Before we get started, I wanted to thank some people that helped me put this together, and it would not be possible without them. From Castleton, Lori Phillips and MacArthur Stein have been working with me for the past month planning and getting ready for today, and it looks gorgeous, and I'm really happy. I'd also like to thank from Castleton Jonathan Czar, who regretted that he couldn't be here, he showed up this morning and helped us set up the event. I'd also like to thank Kevin and Kristen Margolin of Atomic Pro Audio for allowing me to borrow some fun equipment to make today look better. And of course, Jake Washburn up in the booth, who is doing the video today and running the stream for us. So the first person that's going to speak today is Jenn's mom, Linda Schnafel.
Well, I'm going to ad-lib everything because I really didn't write anything out. But I want to thank everybody for coming here for Jenn's celebration. I know she had a lot of friends and she loved them all and she really had good times with them. I miss her terribly. She's always in my heart and in my thoughts. The only thing I can say about Jenn is I want everybody to remember that she was a caring person, a loving person, hard worker, tenacious. She just loved being with people. And she was funny. She just did so many funny things. One thing I remember, I came up here on Parents' Weekend the first year she was here, and she had me dress up as a sumo wrestler. And she did too. It was the big inflated things, and we were the only two in the ring, and she's bouncing me around, and I'm bouncing her around. She hit me real hard, and I ended up on my back. I looked like a turtle. Well, there were two young guys helped me up, and one girl in the background said, "I wish my mother were that cool." And I thought, I'm the cool mother now. That's great. So Jenn and I always had fun together. She was my sidekick. She was the youngest of my 3 kids. But she was a good person, and I want you to know that she was a loving person, a loving wife, loving daughter, loving sibling, loving aunt. And we'll miss her terribly, but I think Chad put together a nice overview of how Jenn lived and who she was. But thanks again for coming. Okay.
I'm Becca, her niece. So I've known my Aunt Jenn for 14 years, but she knew me my whole life, really. She was my real-life Supergirl, my Black Widow, my everyday heroine. She was the one who got me into theater. I'm continuing to act in her honor of it. It brings me so much joy, and I'm glad that she brought me to this theater when I was little. I'm freshman now, so I understand that she's not going to be there for my graduation or my Sweet 16. But that's okay. There was one time that we were together. She gave me a lemon. My grandma was freaked out about it. I will never forget it. I was around 5. Of course I will miss her. She was the opposite of weak. She was honestly one of the strongest women in my life. So this is not simply a goodbye, but just simply a see you later. I love you, Aunt Jenn, forever, and happy birthday.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill. I was Jenn's brother. Growing up, I was the, what you say, troublemaker in the family. I was a handful teenager, and Jenn perfected trouble after that. She's seen how I screwed up and how Mom and Dad caught me doing what I was, and she kind of learned from those lessons. I'm sure, Mom, there's stuff you still to this day don't know she did. And one of the things that Jenn and I used to, because I'm a retired DJ, and Jenn was theater, so one of the things we used to like doing was going out on casting calls during the summer when she was home. She called me up one day and called and said, "We got one over to West Point. Let's go to West Point." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take the day off. Let's go down." And she's dressed like Rebecca from Sunnybrook Farms, going in to do a casting call for a show about West Point. I'm going in there. I had a lot better shape back then. I was tight white T-shirt, tight jeans, crew cut hair, dark sunglasses, and I get somebody coming up to me and go, "Sir, you want to be on TV?" Why not? So Jenn goes and does her thing. I go and do my thing. 2 days later, I get the call back, and she was not happy. She just looked at me. She's like, "You don't even talk to me." You know, I have to say that now that my daughter Becca's 15, I'm seeing a lot of Jenn in Becca. I sometimes even slip up and call her Jenn every now and then. Yeah, she was a very caring and understanding and loving woman, and she's going to be very, very much missed. Well, I'm just winging it right now, so if I run out of things to say, I'm just going to end it right now and just say we miss you, Jenn, and we'll see you sometime soon. So, I'm 50. Come on now, I got a lot.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm Jenn's sister-in-law. The first time I met Jenn was when Bill took me to Vermont to meet Jenn and Chad. She welcomed me right off the bat, and she'll always be in my heart. And as everybody's saying, she'll never be forgotten. So, happy birthday, Jenn.
So like they said before, today was Jenn's birthday. She would have been 44 today. March 19th, 2020 is the saddest day of my life so far. After being married to and being with my soulmate for over 20 years, she lost her battle with MPNST sarcoma cancer. I am blessed that I got to find my soulmate, that I spent half of my adult life with her. In the words of the famous philosopher Cookie Monster, no cry that cookie is finished. Smile because cookie happened. On September 2nd, 2000, I married Jennifer, surrounded by family and friends. I promised to spend the rest of our lives together, whether richer or poorer, through sickness and in health. We went through all of it, and always our love held strong. I know if it weren't for the cancer, we would have grown old together, just as we had always planned. I met Jenn in this room that we are in today. She was sitting in those seats right over there, and I put a picture on the seat she was sitting in. She was helping with the auditions for the play Dark of the Moon. And I walked in, and she asked me if I was auditioning, and I said, "Nope, I'm the sound guy." That was in the fall of 1996. By summer of 1997, we were dating. Our first date was when she went and helped me at the radio station in Rutland at WJJR with my radio programming homework, and then I took her out to Denny's after. We were both communications majors, so besides doing lots of theater in this room together, we were often found in the TV studio editing video. I quickly fell in love with her passion for life and her amazing drive and that amazing smile. That drive for passion for life, that drive and passion for life that she never lost, even at the darkest moments in her life. Jenn and I didn't have children right away. Later, we were unable to conceive. But it led us to having lots of adventures together. We used to explore the roads and amusements of Vermont and New York and all the New England states. In her final years, when we knew that her cancer was terminal, we decided to live the shit out of life. And every chance we got, we would drive somewhere. We would go for a short weekend away. We went to Niagara Falls for a weekend. We went to Wildwood, New Jersey on the boardwalk for a weekend. We went to Plymouth, Massachusetts, many more. She loved to ride in the car. Throughout our time together, we would go on what we used to call blue sky drives. We would just get in the car and we would go somewhere and we would play the get lost game. So we would just drive into an intersection and I'd say right or left, and she would pick one. And we would just keep going until we were completely lost, and then we would find our way home. After I started working at Atomic, I would see things while I was driving the trucks to the next gig. And then I'd come home and I'd be like, oh my God, you gotta see this. And I'd throw her in the car and I'd drive her there. I once drove up to Plattsburgh, New York to show her the big cliffs that you can see on the side of 87, just south of Plattsburgh. And we ended up getting to Plattsburgh and we hopped on Route 9 and we drove all the way back down to Albany and had dinner at Red Robin. We had no idea, but the trip actually took 10 hours by the time we got home. On that trip, we stopped at her favorite restaurant. She loved the Red Robin restaurant, although every time we went there, she only ever ordered the same exact thing. The Burn and Love burger with a fried chicken patty with the roasted jalapeno on the side. When I think about her, I like to picture her in the car. In the passenger seat, the wind blowing in her hair, and the sun shining on her face. Jenn loved to laugh and have fun. She also loved roller coasters. The year Six Flags bought Great Escape in Lake George, we bought seasons passes. Then we found out the seasons passes were good for every Six Flags in the country. So we planned our vacation that year for Six Flags New England and Massachusetts. And we rode every single ride and played every single game while we were there. They even let us on the kids' rides when we explained to them what we were trying to do. Jenn's favorite rides were always the wooden roller coasters. For a few summers, we would jump in the car after work and ride the Comet as many times as we could until the park closed. On hot days, we could be found in the lazy river until it was time to go ride the Comet. When we were in Wildwood, New Jersey, we went whale watching. Jenn was in her wheelchair at the time, and I wasn't sure that it would even be possible. But we went anyway. And these four guys picked her up in her wheelchair and carried her over the side of the boat and put her in the boat. And she was just having fun the whole entire time. The boat ride, feeling the surf on our faces in the warm sun, was one of the best days we ever had. We saw lots of ocean, plenty of dolphins, and we got to see some whales spouting. One of my favorite pictures on my Instagram is of her on this boat, looking out at the water. Jenn and I were like two peas in a pod. We hardly went anywhere without each other, and we both grew to love the passions of the other. Jenn never really liked football before she met me, but she had to become a Bears fan. And she did, happily, and she always rooted for me, even when they lose, which is most of the time. And she looked really cute in her Bears toque. We both shared a love for the Muppets before we met. But we watched everything Muppet after we were together. Oftentimes when we were on blue sky drives, she would say, "Bear right," and I would say, "Left frog." I want us to remember Jenn. That's what she wanted. She asked to be cremated so that she could stay in the house with me and not be buried far away in a field. Here are some things that we should all remember about Jenn. Her name was spelled with 2 N's, don't get it wrong. She had the biggest smile, just the biggest smile. And she could fit her entire fist in her mouth. You were not going to win if you played a game that involved a deck of cards or a board game with her. She was an absolute shark at games. She could even count cards. If you played rummy, she'd be telling you what you were looking for at the end of the game. She could burp louder than anyone I had ever heard. One time when we were dating, we were out in front of the Fine Arts Center, and she burped so loud it sounded like it was echoing off the buildings. She loved sunsets. Often a blue sky drive wasn't allowed to end until we saw one. She loved watching Big Brother and Survivor and a host of other reality game shows, and she was actually really good at picking who would win on the first show. She had an amazing drive for life, and she always tried to stay positive. When we were met with bad news 5 years ago, and we knew it was terminal, she responded by telling herself, "Nope, I'm the first one that's going to beat it." And when I would get down, she would remind me of that. She'd be like, "Don't worry about it, Chad. I'm going to beat this." She loved to stay up late all night. Sometimes we'd go get breakfast at Denny's before we went to bed. She was always good to people. She was always polite. She loved people watching. She loved to watch them come and go and offer her opinion on them. She hated to do lawn work. When we first bought the house, I went to a hardware store, a local hardware store, and they only had 1 rake, and I came home and I was like, "They only had 1 rake, we'll have to wait till they get another one." And she goes, "Why would you need a second rake?" Jenn loved to watch movies. When we were younger and first married, we went on a horror kick. And at one point, we had rented every horror movie at the Blockbuster in Rutland. Jenn loved Christmas. She loved the decorations and the songs and the movies. We have a pile of Christmas movies at home that were must-watch every year. They all had to be watched before Christmas. Christmas Eve was saved for Bad Santa. She also loved the time she got spending time with family around the holidays. Jenn loved to fold paper. She crafted paper cranes out of any piece of paper she could find with 4 sides. Dollar bills, candy wrappers, our house was filled with cranes of all sizes and colors. She later learned to fold dollar bills into clothing and would leave tips for waitstaff all folded up into a shirt and pants, or maybe a crane. Jenn was tough as nails. When we went to Wildwood, New Jersey, we got to our hotel thinking that we had booked a first-floor handicapped room. But when we got there, they informed us our room was on the 3rd floor, no elevator. Our hotel was right on the boardwalk, and she didn't want to give it up. So she walked up those stairs every day and walked back down them every day, and I would carry her wheelchair behind her so that we could keep that hotel. She loved lobster. Lobster roll sandwiches were her favorite, with butter. She loved to cook, so we built a recipe at home of all our favorite recipes, or a recipe book at home of all our favorite recipes. Often, when I had a weekend off, we would try a dish we had never tried before. Despite her drive, Jenn had medical conditions that prevented her from living many facets of her life. Her seizures made her scared to be alone in public, knowing that if she had one, she would collapse and be unconscious for up to 20 minutes. She developed seizures 3 years after we were married. She stopped working within 2 years of the first seizure. Jenn had more than her share of rare conditions. The one that affected her life the most was neurofibromatosis type 1. She grew benign tumors on her nerves her whole entire life. When they grew in problem spots or became problems, caused pain, they had to be removed surgically. It was one of these benign tumors that became malignant, that led to her cancer and the removal of her left leg. It is rare that a neurofibroma becomes malignant. The chances are less than 1% in those that have neurofibromatosis. Medical issues plagued Jenn's life starting just a few years after we were married, but she never let it get her down. She always looked to the bright side, always tried to find the silver lining in every situation. Even now, as I try to move on with my own life, I look to her for inspiration, always looking for the silver lining. The Monday before she passed, she told me, "I'm fine except for this breathing thing." She always handled everything with humor. And we were always trying to make each other smile. Even as she lay in the bed in the hospital, between my I love yous, I was trying to crack jokes, trying to make her smile. I downloaded Spotify and played every song I could think of that was her favorite. It's been almost 18 months since she passed. Often. They don't hurt less, but they hurt less often. I'm still trying hard to find my feet again and move on with the rest of my life. She travels along with me. Her place in my heart will she be forever. Thank you for joining us today. Please turn your attention to the screen behind me where we're going to show a short video I made of her. Those that are watching the stream at home won't hear the audio, so don't think there's something wrong. Copyright issues. And I hope to see you all in the lobby where we can share stories and hugs and smiles. Thank you.
Join us in the lobby for some refreshments. Thank you.